Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. And today's Tuesday tip video, we're going to talk about doing a little upcycling. In today's economy, it's always great to find things we normally throw away and incorporate them into our paper crafting. And even better, it's one less thing that lands up in a landfill. So let's jump in. I've got 10 amazing tips to share. So let's get started. Friends, I love to provide you with a free download that goes along with my video. So no need to write down the tips. They're all right here in your free download. If you go to SimplySimpleStamping.com, look for the October 7th, 2025 blog post. That's where you can find your free download. All right, friends, are you ready to jump in? We're going to start with tip number 1. So those little scraps of ribbon, do we all have these? We're trimming down the tails of a bow that we've created, and we normally throw this away, right? Well, I'm going to share a really great tip how you can upcycle these no matter what the size. I'm going to be using baker's twine. You can use linen thread. You can even use a thinner ribbon, but I'm just going to create myself a loop with my baker's twine. I'm going to grab my little scrap piece of ribbon that I would have thrown away. I'm going to give that a little pull, and boom, we have a cute little bow, or a little kind of a little faux bow, really. I'm going to go ahead and tie this in a knot. Now you could come along and we could trim that down so all you see is that little bit of white in the middle, or we can tie that in a little bow, and you do want to keep it kind of small. And you have a sweet little bow that you could add to a die, to a card. Really a great way to upcycle those little scraps. Now, this tip is going to take place in your closet. How many of us have bought shirts or blouses or jackets or sweaters? And there's those little ribbons that are inside, right? Those big, oh gosh, there's probably about 12 inches of ribbon on each shoulder. And you know what I'm talking about. When I cut those out, I don't toss them. I bring them into my stamp room and I use them to just create different bows. In fact, a lot of those ribbons just happen to be white or maybe in light colors. I can use a Stampin' Blend marker to color it any color I need. I don't have an example of these ribbons because I don't have anything new in my closet, which tells me it's time to go shopping for my fall wardrobe. Don't you agree? Time to dig into the back of that makeup drawer for those little palettes of eyeshadow that, oh, maybe those bright blues from the 70s are still floating back there, right? Well, we're going to create a really great card using leftover eye makeup. So let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the Pretty Florals stamp set. I'm going to start in Mossy Meadow. I'm going to stamp my leaves at the bottom. I'm going to come in with Pecan Pie, and I'm going to add the detail to my flowers. We'll add those right there. And now it's time to come in with the Versamark pad. This is what's going to help us create using our makeup. So I'm going to ink up just the solid image of these flowers in Versamark. It's going to go right on top of those. Kind of invisible, but that's okay. So I'm going to pull out here some of my old makeup. I'll get some here just off of the lid. And I'm just going to lightly tap that makeup onto the Versamark. And look at these gorgeous flowers that we get. Isn't that so cool? So yeah, especially if you've got maybe a makeup palette that has colors that you just never wear, it's a great time to use them on a project like that. And look at the shimmer it gives. Beautiful. I'm going to just kind of lightly pat it, okay? I don't want to rub it because I don't want it to smear. Once that Versamark is good and set, which you could heat set it if you wanted to speed it up, you're good to go. Let's add a quick sentiment from Beautiful Motifs. And for this tip, I've got a bonus tip. If you have any of these type of brushes, and this is just one, it came in a kit, and it's one that I don't use, I'm going to show you how to do a little stippling. I used to do stippling all the time. So you see it comes out pretty bright. So I like to stipple off a little bit first. And if you'd like to add a little blue around your flowers or any color, but again, make sure you kind of tap off first so it doesn't come out quite so strong. Well, I need to practice what I preach because I got a little heavy handed there. Maybe I got a little too excited. But, friends, you can easily now bring in your Stampin' pads and you're going to be able to add all kinds of color and really great stippling. In fact, I'm going to turn this over and I just want to kind of show you. It just makes a great background too, right? To just, you want something pretty rather than a solid white or vanilla, whatever color you're using, because you can do this technique on anything. But you can see it really does add a beautiful look. These little pop tabs, many of us had tons of these laying around. And even though we recycle our aluminum, it's kind of fun to take these off and use them as ribbon slides. So let me show you my trick. So I'm going to take my ribbon and I'm going to go through both ends of that pop tab. And you can see that looks really cute, right? It just kind of makes for a fun little slide. But here's something else we can do. If we bring these tabs down, all right, if we bring those down and we come up through the opposite side, we want to keep that middle nice and loose. So that is another option. It looks a little less pop tabby, if you will. So that is an option. You could tie this in a bow like this, then we can take another piece of ribbon. We're going to go through the bottom here and then back up through the top. And now that little tab could be added to the side. It just kind of gives a little extra shine. So what great things you can do with a pop tab. I've got a Misty Moonlight ink pad and we're going to use the With You in Mind. We'll just stamp a little thank you there. So boom, instant, fabulous. And bonus tip time. How many of us have tons of old dried up nail polish, right? Well, oh, look how gunky that thing is. But you know what? It's going to work great for this. And we can just add a few coats of nail polish. This is especially great if you had a silver tab. You won't need as many coats as I do on this black one. Now I'm going to let that dry and I'll add another couple coats or two. But I think you can see, like without the bow, this little pink ribbon slide would be so much fun. Junk mail. Oh my goodness, we get so much of this, right? Well, did you know that you can use your junk mail and we can create some really unique die cuts? Let me show you what I mean. This page could be interesting. We've got some really great color here. So let's tear this out. So I've got some great color here, but I've also got some really great green. I think I'm going to try to die cut a couple of leaves. These are the Pretty Florals dies. I just used the stamp set a little while ago. Let's die cut a few of those, and then maybe we can get a really rich color flower. How about this one? Who knows? We'll see what we get. Let me go die cut those, and I'll show you. Now, let me tell you, with this technique, and I've used it a lot, you might have something successful and you might have something hideous. Don't think I love the color of that flower, but you know, it's all about playing, right? Oh, now I do love what it did with the leaf. Look at that. Ooh, nice and rich. So I think I'll choose a different color for the flower. So let's see what else we have in here. Ooh, there's some pretty red. Let's give that one a try. All right, I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. All right, test number 2. Like I said, you just never know what you're going to get. Hey, now I'm really liking the looks of that. What do you guys think? You know, just adding that there to a white card. I mean, really, it's beautiful. No one's going to guess that it's junk mail. And let me tell you, this particular junk mail has really good shine to it as well. So let's get creative before we give it a toss. Now, I do want to come in with a little bonus tip, and that is on detail dies. I think detail dies can also look gorgeous when they are cut from junk mail. So I'm going to bring this piece back in because I really did like the colors that we had there. Let's try to just die cut this. Again, we're going to see what we get. Detail dies really do work well with this because you're not going to see as much of whatever design was in your junk mail. So let's see what this one looks like. You're going to want to remove it very gently, all right? Because it is junk mail. It's not as thick as maybe a cardstock or a paper. Let's look at it on white. Look at that. We've got some of the greens. We've got some of those darker greens. Really is quite stunning. Now, one of my tips I want to give you when doing detailed die cuts with junk mail, this is where you're going to want to use those adhesive sheets. All right. If you will put a piece of adhesive sheet on to your junk mail on the back before you run it through your machine, it's going to make adhering this so much easier. Every little bit's going to lay flat. So that would be one of my great tips right there. Don't forget about your free download that goes along with the video. So whenever you need some of those upcycle tips, you'll have them right at your fingertips. Friends, you can find this at simplysimplestamping.com. Just look for the October 7th, 2025 blog post. When you get a photopolymer stamp, do you hold on to the acetate sheets that come in there? There's actually two kinds of sheets. This is more like a window sheet. It's pretty heavy duty. And then you're going to have something like this. It's going to feel a little more like cellophane. I hold on to these and I use them in my paper crafting. This is a card I shared last month, but you can see I used those acetate sheets to create these fun little flappies, right? We got to have those little hidden flappies. There's a lot of different ways that we use window sheet. And so rather than purchasing window sheet, why not save those that you get free in your photopolymer stamp sets? Now let's talk about the more cellophane style. Do you know that you could dry emboss this? I'm going to bring in another piece of junk mail because I find that this technique works best if I have it sandwiched between some copy paper or, like I said, in this case, junk mail is perfect. So I'm going to place that right here. All right, that way I can see, I know right where it is. Let's add that inside our embossing folder. I'm going to run this through my machine. Let me get where you can see the design. I'll put it there on white. I hope that you can see. It just gives a nice little texture. What a great way to add a little shimmer and shine to a created card. If you followed my channel for any length of time, you know I love to add Stampin' Dimensionals to my cards. Well, another tip I love to share is when you've used up all of your Stampin' Dimensionals and all you have left are what I like to call the bones, don't throw away those bones. We can trim these and we can use them in pieces. Let me just bring in this little image that I created earlier. And I always like to put the flat side out. So the jagged end is going to go to the inside. But with this little method, I can use those. No sense throwing those away. And of course, here on the end, I can see we're going to trim to about right there. So yeah, this is just a really great way to use those up. And when you're ready to add that to a card with dimension, boom, you have it. Save those Stampin' Dimensional bones. Laundry and paper crafting don't really tend to go together because I enjoy one and not the other. I'll give you one guess which, but I will tell you I've learned some great ways to upcycle those dryer sheets. This is a used dryer sheet. This is a fresh dryer sheet. I've got a tip for each one of these. I'm going to use this detailed die again. I'm going to just trim down the dryer sheet because if you struggle to get detailed dies out of or the paper, you can't get it to come out, a dryer sheet is a godsend. So let's bring in some more junk mail. How about this one? And we'll get a little bit of that red and a little bit of that rock there, that little crystal. I'm going to place that there. Again, I'm just going to trim this away. All right, I'm going to go run this through my die cut and emboss machine. And then, all right, I've run that through, and I want you to see, kind of looks like a mess, doesn't it? But look at that. I got all my little pieces out, easy peasy. There's my mess, but you know what? I would have thrown this away anyway. So what a great way to use it. It also means, look, almost all the all the little pieces came out of my die as well. So I don't have any extras stuck in my die. Use dryer sheets, okay? Used on this technique. And by the way, I think even with junk mail, that looks gorgeous. So, my tip with an unused dryer sheet is this: if you get ribbon and you see, especially like linen thread, see how we get that little curl? Well, when we're tying it, we don't want that little curl. So, what I like to do is take a unused dryer sheet and I simply run whatever thread, ribbon I need to use. Oh, look at that. All the curl is gone. So we're just going to use that unused dryer sheet. And yeah, just like that, we have ribbon or thread or baker's twine, whatever, it's ready to go. This just kind of helps get those little kinks out. Because I am an upcycle girl, I also hold on to all that thinner cardboard that comes in my designer series paper. Now, what I've done here is I've cut them down to 4¼ by 5½, and I've got some tips on how you can use these. So my first tip is this: if I die cut just a little mask, okay, so I'm going to use the branching out dies to create a mask. I'm going to bring in a matching piece now of cardstock, and this could be any color. I'm going to go ahead and use white. And you know, I could use my blending brushes, I could use sponge daubers, or what about the stipple brush I used earlier? Let's give it another try. Again, I'm going to tap off a little bit first. You want to hold that in place. And you could also use a little post-it note tape if you wanted to, but I think I'm going to be able to hold this down just fine. And I'm going to stipple around the outside edges. I decided I wanted it darker. Let's see what we have. Great. We have a fantastic stencil now, don't we? I could now come in and stamp a greeting there. So a really fun way to use a mask, right? So we can create some really great stencils and masks. I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to cut it down to 3¾ by 5. And what if we stippled the outside edges and created a great border for a card? All right, let's see what we have. Yeah, I like that. I just think it gives it a really soft look. So if you wanted something a little bit different, a nice little edge, I think this works amazing. All right, friends, this is my last tip. Tip number 10. If you have lots of little scraps, why not consider cutting them down? I have added these to the back of a piece of copy paper. Junk mail would have worked great as well because you won't see any of it. So for this, I used basic gray, night of navy, and basic white. So yes, that is a piece of basic white in between. Was ready for the holidays, so little shaded spruce, real red, and basic white. And I just adhered those to a piece of copy paper that was 4¼ by 5½. Then I was able to trim it down. Now from this, I could use this alone on a card and it would look great. But you know what else I could do? I can die cut from the center of that. And we'll have two great pieces that we can use. Let me show you what it looks like. So I have a great window and I have a great label die as well that I can add to that. Guys, oh my gosh, so many ways we can use all those pieces that we would normally toss away. And there you go, my friends, 10 great hacks. Ways that you can upcycle things that would normally go in the trash and go in the landfills. Let's find ways that we can incorporate those into our paper crafting and utilize things that are normally just not so attractive and turn them into something gorgeous. Thanks for joining me today. I hope that you liked that video. If you did, I would love a thumbs up on YouTube. Thank you so much for that. And if you haven't subscribed, click that subscribe button. And then if you ring the bell, YouTube will let you know whenever I am back with another video. Hey, if you love paper crafting and you're looking for a really great paper crafting community where we create together, nice and slow, you're going to want to check out my YouTube membership. If you'll click on the join button right next to the subscribe button, you can read all about the different tiers that I have for you. Guys, we have a fantastic time creating twice a month there on the YouTube membership. Well, that is all for me, everyone. Again, thank you for being here, and I can't wait to stamp with you next time. We'll see you then. Bye bye.